Hello and welcome to another Super Smash Bros. Moveset. For my first moveset after the end of Smash Ultimate, I wanted to take a look at a recent villain from a long-rumored and highly anticipated entry to a classic Nintendo franchise, Ravenbeak. Ravenbeak is the primary antagonist of Metroid Dread, the latest installment in the Metroid franchise, as well as the fifth entry in the 2D Metroid chronology. Initially teased in the Chozo Memories unlockable in Samus Returns, he made his full debut in Dread as a powerful foe and directing the hacked Emmy drones to hunt Samus down. Ravenbeak is a Chozo, an ancient and intelligent race of avian aliens who took Samus in after the space pirate attack on her home and helped make her the warrior she is today. It turns out he actually volunteered some of his DNA to Samus in her initial infusion to help her adapt. Specifically, Ravenbeak is a leader of the Malkin warrior tribe who facilitated the massacre of the scientific Toha tribe. After the Metroid were locked away on SR-388, he and his tribe retreated to ZDR to form a plan to use the Metroid's power to bring order to the galaxy. That plan was foiled by their extinction at the arm cannon of Samus. In a final attempt to harness the Metroid power, he lured the now Metroid hybrid Samus to ZDR to take her DNA or convince her to join his side. Metroid Dread has received more or less universal praise and high sales for the franchise, second only to Metroid Prime at the time of recording, which bodes well for the future. In continuing the 2D Metroid tradition, in Dread you play as Samus in the explorable and dangerous world of ZDR, backtracking and fighting your way through in an effort to avoid the Emmy, destroy the X-Parasites, and get off the planet. You actually see Ravenbeak very sparingly throughout the game, in a fight at the beginning, a flashback with Quiet Robe, and the final confrontation. But he's actually posing as Samus's guiding AI Adam throughout most of the game. You get to see his full power in that final boss fight though. Mercury's theme brought a new level of speed and intensity to Samus Returns and Dread, and you really feel that fighting against Ravenbeak. He's fast, ruthless, and deadly, but with a sharp enough eye, you'll be able to best him. With ferocious intelligence and clear moveset potential, Ravenbeak has immediately rocketed into the forefront of Smash speculation as the next potential Metroid rep. As always, before we dive into how Ravenbeak would play, I want to touch on all the stats and aesthetic touches to help you visualize Ravenbeak in Smash. To start with his stats, I generally try to move him a bit above or below Samus to make him a more extreme take on Chozo trained warrior and reflect the gameplay of the Mercury Steam games. In my mind, the next Smash would keep Samus fairly similar to how she is now to reflect the entirety of Metroid, allowing Ravenbeak to really embody the fast-paced combat style of those games. He's a bit heavier than Samus to reflect his larger stature, with a slower walk and much faster dash to reflect his training and intensity, and a higher jump and faster fall to show his aerial prowess. Playing as Ravenbeak should make you feel like you're controlling the boss fight, with intense speed and power mixed with moments of calm and setup. Fighting against Ravenbeak would be about properly dodging his slower attacks and finding openings to counter and deal damage. As for his visuals, his palette swaps would all pull from Chozo culture. He naturally has his default look from Dread, along with a red and white color like the Chozo Soldier, blue with a hint of green and gold accents like Quiet Robe, gold with some red and teal as a mix of the Elite Chozo Soldier and Golden Chorizo, gray and black with some muted greens as a mix of the X-infected soldiers and his final Ravenbeak X form, dark blue and red like the main Chorizo art, purple and orange like the in-game appearance of the standard Chorizo, and dark brown and orange to mix other depictions of the Chorizo and the Chozo from the Ruins test in Zero Mission. At the start of the match, he would simply drop down onto the stage. His taunts would include glowing with red crackling energy, doing his taunt from his boss fight, and flourishing with his cape whipping behind him. And lastly, for victory screens, one would have him charge and fire his charge beam, ending in the pose for most of his artwork. One would have him speak "power is everything" in Chozo and calmly cross his arms. And one would show his cape burning away and have him jump into the air, revealing his wings, staying airborne. Now we arrive at Ravenbeak's moveset, but before we dive in, I need to lay out a disclaimer for my movesets going forward. With Smash Ultimate concluded, these movesets aren't really for Smash Ultimate anymore, but rather the hypothetical next iteration. Problem with that is we have no idea what that game would be like, whether it will stick to the formula or really shake things up since Ultimate was the pinnacle of Smash so far. As such, I want to establish that I'll be making these movesets with the former approach in mind, assuming that the game will play basically the same, feature the same type of moveset template, and include similar additional content from the characters' worlds. So now let's actually get into the moveset, and even with only one major appearance, there's a lot to work with. Ravenbeak's normals are a mix of his most simple melee attacks and some of the Mercury's themed Metroid staples. Jab is Triple Claw, a 3-hit combo based on his most basic attack with an outward slash, inner claw, and slash downwards. This isn't the quickest jab out there, but even this can deal a good bit of damage. Forward Tilt is Melee Counter, a single upward slash with his arm cannon. This move wouldn't do as much damage, but it has incredibly high priority and packs a lot of hit stun. It's great for disrupting enemies and creating openings, but doesn't come out overly fast and has more end-lag than you'd expect, so careful use is still necessary. Up Tilt is Axe Stomp, pulled from an attack from his countered animation and functioning much like Samus's Up Tilt. Down Tilt is Flash Shift, spiritually in the same vein as Cloud's Sliding Down Tilt. This is a short-range dash with minimal damage and brief intangibility, more along the lines of a Star Fox side B and used for positioning. Dash attack is Flash Strike, pulling from this far-reaching and powerful blow. It's a pretty good kill move and bursts out of down tilt well. Sticking to the ground for now, Ravenbeak's grab animation mimics his iconic grab from Dread, pummeling by crushing with his hand. F-throw is a calm huge blast with his arm cannon, up throw has him take flight with the enemy and slam down like Kirby, back throw also features his wings, having him briefly hover while turning and dragging the enemy along the ground, and down throw is a simple slam into the stage. Coming back to his wings, his aerials are primarily pulled from the second phase of his boss fight. As such, with his double jump, Ravenbeak will sprout his wings, and most aerials will slow or completely stop his descent, similar to Sora. Neutral air is the Beam Burst Circle, a quick flurry of blast all around him, great for coverage and disruption. Enemies will usually only be caught in the blast for half the circle though. Forward air is Wing Dash, a brief dash straight sideways with high kill power. Up air is Wing Stab, jabbing both wings straight above him. Back air is a charge beam blast diagonal and down, which is strongest at the base. And down air is Plummet Stomp, sending Ravenbeak straight down. Meanwhile, amping up his power, his smash attacks are a variety of arm cannon blasts. F smash is the Cannon Slash, pulled from another attack in his counter cutscene. This has him use a beam in a huge slash down in front of him. Up smash is the Spread Beam, shooting straight up and spreading out around him. This will carry enemies into the final hit, so striking an enemy with the start of the move racks up a lot of damage. And down smash is Ground Wave, using an arm cannon blast to send out a wave of energy around him from below. Now for his specials, Neutral B could go one of two ways. Either would include a full power charge beam, maybe called the Hyper Beam for distinction. While charging and holding B, you would be able to aim in a full circle around you until firing a large laser similar to Robin's Thoron. Option 2 would involve 3 levels of charge like Sephiroth. The weakest level would be the Black Hole, sending a slow homing projectile exploding with moderate damage and little knockback. The middle level of charge is the Sunbeam, sending a burning orb onto stage that fires out smaller projectiles. And finally, the highest level of charge would still be the Charge Beam. This was the only and best way I found to include the Black Hole and Sun, extremely present parts of the boss fight, but for the sake of streamlining, I could see cutting them and just leaving the Charge Beam. Side B pulls from one of our first impressions of Ravenbeak and a Metroid staple, another chargeable special using the Dash Grab and Shine Spark. By tapping side B, you'll perform a quick dash forward, command grabbing your enemy, after which you can either launch them forward or crush them down depending on what direction you tap. By holding side B, you'll perform a deadly Shine Spark sideways that stops at ledge, on hitting a wall, or after enough flight time, blasting away any enemies in your path. Up B is called Chozo Flight, making full use of Ravenbeak's wings from phase 2. This is a very strong recovery move, as not only does it cover a lot of vertical space, but you'll be able to maintain your height and gently glide side to side until performing an attack, at which point you'll begin to slowly fall while still being able to attack. And down B is Lightning Armor. Using this move will activate Ravenbeak's energy shield around him, slightly lessening damage taken as it absorbs incoming attacks, changing to a red color for its maximum charge. If full charge isn't reached after a short amount of time, the shield will disappear and be on a bit of a cooldown. If it does hit its red phase, however, Ravenbeak can use Lightning Wave, releasing a huge wave of energy covering a large portion of the stage. It is easy to dodge low, but deadly if you get caught in and above him. Lastly, his final smash presents a bit of a pickle. The main element left over from Dread is Ravenbeak X, his freakish amalgamate form caused by a powerful X power state. This could work as a big beast transformation, but in-game it's not something he really wants, so as a final smash it feels like it strips control from him. I could just give him a copy of the Zero Laser, but that feels lazy. That brings me to two main options, either utilizing the deadly Emmy or fulfilling his mission of harnessing the power of the Metroid. Summoning Emmy on stage or in a cutscene to one-shot opponents could be cool, but I think taking more liberties here is the way to go. Therefore, Ravenbeak's final smash is called Ultimate Power, and is a return of the Wario Man style controllable transformation. With Metroids floating around him, he would absorb their energy and become a more powerful hybrid, similar to Samus's fully transformed appearance. From there, you can move freely and have essentially 5 moves: a single deadly strike in any direction with A, a massive laser firing immediately on tapping B, an insanely powerful dash strike with side B, an amped up flying dash merged with a shine spark for up B, and a huge wave of parasitic energy for down B, stunning and rapidly draining health from enemies around him. I found this was the best way to empower the character, keep true to his abilities, and reference the climax of Metroid Dread. That completes Ravenbeak's moveset. With high kill power and speed but tricky frame data, I think he could easily implement the feelings of both playing as a final boss and the intensity of Mercury Steam's Metroid games. Now let's cover everything else Ravenbeak could bring to Smash. As I said before, this is mostly working under the assumption that Smash will follow its usual course. The only place this gets weird is with spirits, as that may have been unique to Ultimate and we may go back to trophies or some other form of additional representation. We also don't know what characters will return, meaning some spirit battles might not be possible as I'm imagining them. Still, it's fun to make up spirit battles, so for this section I'll continue doing stages, music, classic mode routes, spirits, and me costumes. If I feel it fits, I'll also mention new items or assist trophies as the door is wide open for the next Smash. Though an argument could be made for an SR388 stage covering more of Metroid's history and tying in with the Chozo, Ravenbeak's stage should clearly be set on ZDR. The exact location on the planet is a little more flexible. There's the Artaria Bridge, an Emmy Zone, an X-Parasite containment room in Ilun, platforms outdoors in Hanubia overlooking the dreary landscape, or the Itarash throne room. While having the X-Parasites more present in Smash would be cool, I think that's probably the weakest choice, followed by the throne room, as even though it's directly tied to Ravenbeak, I don't think it would be an exciting stage. The other 3 each have their own merits. The Artaria Bridge is simple but calls back to the first encounter with Ravenbeak and the starting section of Dread, and the bridge could be destroyed and drop into a deeper level of Artaria. An Emmy Zone would be pretty easy to design, references a core part of Dread, and could have Emmy roaming a stage hazard similar to 5V on the Gamer stage. And Hanubia also has more room for platform design, best captures ZDR as a planet, and could have hazards in the form of Chozo soldiers and X. I think while Hanubia is a good choice, I would personally choose an Artaria stage that changes like Castle Siege. Starting at the Artaria Bridge, which breaks into the lower caverns of Artaria and features some of the creatures, then moving into an Emmy room and returning to the bridge. As for music, we don't need to add too many tracks as we already have a large selection of Metroid music, but there's tons of tense synthy tracks that would be great additions. Here are my selections, with Smash remixes given to an Artaria remix combining Artaria 2, 3, and Thermal Device, Corpius, Kraid, the Emmy Chase, and of course Ravenbeak's boss theme with all phases. Ravenbeak's classic mode route is called Power is Everything, and is framed around Ravenbeak defeating Samus on ZDR before exploring the universe, defeating more and more dangerous foes to steal their power. After the initial battle with Samus on Artaria, you would then fight Ganondorf on Bridge of Eldin, Sephiroth on Northern Cave, Bayonetta on Umbra Clock Tower, Palutena with Pit on Skyworld, and Kirby on Fountain of Dreams. After the bonus stage, you would face off against the Hands. While Classic Mode doesn't represent Metroid much, we would get some spirits special to Dread to add to the collection. This would include the Dread Samus, Emmy, and Chozo Soldier spirits already added to Ultimate. Further additions would include Dropter, Novice Support Spirit with small Charizards that Flare Blitz you, Musby, Novice Support Spirit with a giant Ivysaur, Shakernaut, Novice Support Spirit with a Rob that neutral inside Bees, Alt Class, Novice Support Spirit with a Metal Mega Man that down smashes, Central Unit, Advanced Support Spirit with a giant Metal Kirby that runs away while Invisible Foxes blaster you, Corpius, Advanced Attack Spirit with a giant Ridley focusing on B and down B as well as turning invisible, Robot Chozo Soldier, Advanced Support Spirit with a Metal Falco wielding the Beam Sword, SQ, Advanced Support Spirit with Ridley floating with a Super Leaf and invisible pits using their arrows, Drogiga, Advanced Defense Spirit with a giant slow Kirby and small Kirbys with high gravity, Golzuna, Advanced Defense Spirit with a giant Metal Ivysaur with X-Bombs, Experiment number Z57, Ace Attack Spirit with a giant Metal Piranha Plant firing a Rage Blaster, Poison Floors, High Winds, and an invisible Ravenbeak using Charge Beam, Quiet Robe, Ace Neutral Spirit with a Falco running away while you fight 3 Robs armed with a Freezy, a Deku Nut, and a Smart Bomb to represent Emmys, Metroid Suit, Legendary Support Spirit with a Samus with Lifesteal, Metroid Assist Trophies, and Final Smash, and finally Ravenbeak X, Legendary Attack Spirit fighting Ravenbeak followed by a giant Metal K-Roll. Lastly, for Mii costumes, I could easily see Chozo Warriors being added as Mii Sword Fighters to complement Ravenbeak. It would also be easy to include the new versions of Samus' suit, and maybe an Emmy helmet. If not as a costume or stage hazard, I think an Emmy Assist Trophy would be super cool, roaming the stage and striking anyone in its field of view. Last but not least, let's discuss Ravenbeak's chances of getting into Smash. With his quick rise in popularity, moveset potential, and bringing in newer elements of Metroid, how likely are the Smash team to give him a look? Well, honestly, I think he has great odds. Again, we have to keep in mind that this is no longer for Smash Ultimate. This would be a few years away. We've seen how some popular picks can be delayed in joining the roster due to timing, so I think Metroid Dread coming out when it did and still being acknowledged in Smash with a Spirit event puts Ravenbeak in a great starting position. Dread making lots of money doesn't hurt either, and his chances are even better if we look at him specifically as a Metroid rep. While he may be like other frontrunners such as Silex who've only had one major appearance, his importance as a character rockets him higher. He's the final boss and primary antagonist, he's a Chozo who have been massively important throughout the series, and he has direct ties to Samus. I think the Chozo bit is especially important, representing the roots of the franchise while also carrying the feel of newer Metroid games in his moveset. With that, he's become a top contender for Metroid, and up there with the other remaining big Nintendo bosses for fans. His biggest challenge revolves around the next Smash's time frame. We have no clue if and when the next Smash will come out, and by then Dread and Ravenbeak's prevalence in the conversation may have died down, making way for other Nintendo baddies with more staying power, or even the adversaries of the more relevant Prime 4, should we be so lucky. Still, he's certainly left his mark with fans, and I don't think the love for Dread will die down anytime soon. I think as long as his name stays in roster speculation, Ravenbeak has a very good chance to join the next Smash roster. That does it for my breakdown of how Ravenbeak could work in Smash. Let me know what you thought about it and if you'd be excited to see him on the roster. It's been nice to start working on these again, but truthfully I don't have a ton of solo movesets that I'm working on at the moment. A couple other things will be taking the lead following this, such as a video on Metroid Prime 4 and my original music. But I do have some Smash ideas following that, like another set of new Mii fighters, a revamped Doomslayer moveset, and potential new Smash series. And later this year I hope to dive into Rivals of Aether and make my own characters to put my moveset making to the test. But until then, be sure to like and subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.